But joining us now, retired Secret Service agent, former CIA counterterrorism officer, and author of most recently, I Am a Secret Service Agent, Dan Emmett. Dan, your reaction to the indictments and the president's reaction over the weekend?
Well, it was good to see that the Mueller investigation has finally produced something other than speculation. So it's great that we've indicted 13 Russians. Good luck at getting them extradited here. Vladimir Putin is not going to send those people here to stand trial any more than Donald Trump would send 13 of our operatives over there to stand trial. So it's somewhat symbolic, but I have to agree with Rush in that the president needs to really watch himself because the investigation is not over, and it's not over until it's over, as with any other investigation.
Well, to point out what was in that indictment, no evidence of collusion in the indictments between Russia and the Trump campaign. This is an effort by Russia that started in 2014, and there's no evidence that the meddling by Russia changed the electoral results. That is all worth pointing out.
Absolutely. The Deputy Attorney General pointed that out on Friday,
right,
that no Americans wittingly engaged in any collusion with the Russians or with them in any way. So that's certainly good news for the president. So hopefully this will be over soon. I know it's been a huge distraction to the president and his administration trying to get the country going, but in the meanwhile, you have all of this noise in the background about the investigation with the Russians.
But you would agree, though, that if Russia meddled in our election, which this indictment certainly shows, we need to get to the bottom of it, whether these individuals will be extradited or not. That we need to clean up the election process to make sure it is fair, and that bad actors, controlled by the puppet master Vladimir Putin, are prevented from manipulating the United States.
We can do our best. The intelligence community, I think, does do its best, the counterintelligence portion of the intelligence community. But this type of thing has been going on for decades. This is nothing new. And I'm not saying that we do it, but I'm saying that what the Russians have done is pretty much par for the course with intelligence communities around the world.
Well, Dan, I want to move on to this story because I think we all found this just utterly shocking. This is a story reported by Axios that a Secret Service agent, and you served in the Secret Service, and White House Chief of Staff John Kelly were involved in a scuffle with Chinese security officials over the nuclear football, which is supposed to stay close to the president at all times. Now, this happened back in November during the president's trip to Beijing, when the U.S. military aide carrying the football was denied entry to Beijing's Great Hall. John Kelly rushed over, urging the officials to keep walking when there was a commotion, and the Secret Service agent grabbed the Chinese security official and had to tackle him to the ground. As a former Secret Service agent, Dan, what is your reaction to this episode, and does it speak to, well, China's manipulation or attempted manipulation of us?
Yeah, during my time on the presidential detail, I participated in numerous foreign advances, and friction with foreign security is common. All of these things are supposed to be worked out during the pre-advance. That's actually before the advance team goes out. The entourage, who's supposed to enter, who cannot enter, that's all worked out ahead of time. What you find with foreign security, people like the Chinese and some places in the Middle East, they will agree to lots of things, but then game time comes and they decide to change their minds in an effort to essentially embarrass the United States, or just simply to prove that they are in charge of what goes on in their country and not the United States. It's really quite common.
Dan, Steve Rogers here. One thing we can agree on is that the Chinese learned not to challenge a U.S. Marine. Not at all. And that's number one. And number two,
yes,
you kind of answered the question. There is a protocol, and you mentioned the word embarrassment. The Chinese tried to embarrass us, but you think they kind of backfired and they actually embarrassed themselves?
I think ultimately they did. It's trying to separate the president from the football. Everyone has to know that that's not going to stand. When he's in the White House, he's perfectly capable of starting a thermonuclear war. When he's on the road, he has to have that football close by. So I think it did embarrass the Chinese. The Chinese are very sensitive to embarrassment, and I think this incident probably did just that.
Is it wrong that I would secretly love to see or hear about Chief of Staff Kelly punching somebody in the face if they pull that again.
Well,
Is that wrong?
you're talking about a 3-star Marine Corps infantry officer, a general officer, so it doesn't surprise me in the least.